In the heart of the galaxy, the larger powers were already playing a dangerous game, their endless wars and shifting alliances a constant reminder that peace was a tenuous thing. The Aurelian Guardians, a race of super soldiers bred for battle, had held the galaxy's military supremacy for centuries. Their bodies were bioengineered for strength, speed, and endurance. They were warriors in every sense, ruthless, efficient, and nearly unbeatable. The Vanks, on the other hand, wielded a different kind of power. Their intelligence was their weapon, a hive mind that allowed them to think and act as one, their strategies cold, calculated, and far-reaching. They could manipulate the very fabric of a society from within, using subterfuge and subtlety to undermine entire civilizations. A battle of wits, their warfare wasn't fought with guns or missiles, but with spies, sabotage, and misinformation. And then there was humanity. To the galaxy's powers, Earth was little more than a speck, a new, untested species, still struggling with its own internal conflicts. Earth had never been a part of the galaxy's grand designs. Its people had made their first tentative steps into the stars only a century ago, and their reputation in galactic politics was still in the shadows. They were seen as naive, unrefined. The galaxy's elder races regarded humanity as a curiosity, intelligent, yes, but brutish and primitive compared to their own millennia of culture and evolution. It was on the fringes of the galaxy that the spark of humanity's rise would first ignite. An unexpected crisis in the Zeta Nebula, an isolated region, far from the influence of the galactic powers, would force humanity's hand. The pirates that operated in the nebula had long been a nuisance, but they were a known threat, easily dealt with by the established military forces of the Vanks and Aurelian fleets. That was, until a small human exploration fleet, under the command of Captain Eric Lawson, encountered them while mapping a new star system. The pirates, thinking they could easily overpower the humans, launched a full assault. But what they didn't account for was humanity's uncanny ability to turn the tide in the most dire of situations. The pirates were wiped out in a surprise counterattack, the humans using unconventional tactics. Ambushes, makeshift traps, and unexpected alliances that left their adversaries scrambling for survival. Word of the human victory spread fast, and soon the galaxy took notice. Humanity had just made its first real mark on the galaxy. The question was no longer whether they could survive. It was how far they could go. The victory in the Zeta Nebula was only the beginning. Commander Eric Lawson, a veteran of Earth's early space explorations, had no intention of resting on his laurels. The unexpected success against the pirates had drawn attention from the higher-ups in the United Earth Alliance, UEA, the governing body overseeing humanity's military and exploration efforts. Lawson's crew had earned a reputation among the upper echelons of Earth's military command, but not everyone was convinced that their methods were sustainable in the long run. When the UEA received a call for peacekeeping assistance from the fragile union of two alien factions, the Nera and the Worthians, both vying for control over the mineral-rich world of Myrtha-6, Lawson was chosen to lead the mission. The task seemed straightforward. Mediate the conflict and establish a ceasefire before tensions escalated further. However, as the UEA was learning more and more, peacekeeping in the galaxy was a far more treacherous business than they had anticipated. Lawson and his team, a small but elite squad of human diplomats and soldiers, arrived on Myrtha-6 to find the situation already spiraling out of control. The Nera, a reptilian species known for their swift temper and brutal fighting style, had already clashed with the Worthians, a race of humanoid merchants with a reputation for cunning and manipulation. Both sides had been pushed to the brink, and Lawson quickly realized that a simple negotiation wouldn't suffice. Something more aggressive was required. The Nera, expecting a typical human surrender or retreat in the face of superior numbers, launched a surprise assault on the human delegation, hoping to crush any human presence before reinforcements arrived. But this time, the Nera were wrong. In an instant, the humans fought back with terrifying precision. Lawson's team had learned from past mistakes. Instead of standing firm in a defensive posture, they went on the offensive, engaging the Nera with guerrilla tactics that turned the local environment into a weapon. Lawson's soldiers, trained in the brutal realities of Earth's urban warfare, used the terrain to their advantage, setting traps and ambushes using rudimentary equipment alongside scavenged alien tech. The Nera were unprepared for the ferocity of the human response. As the Nera forces began to retreat, Lawson's team sent a message loud and clear across the galaxy. Humanity wasn't just a player, it was a threat that couldn't be ignored. The success of the mission quickly spread, but this time, the victory wasn't considered a fluke. The galaxy was watching, and it was starting to ask the dangerous question: what would humans do next? The news of humanity's victory on Myrtha 6 spread quickly across the galaxy. It was not just a battle won, it was a statement. The Nera, fierce and proud, had been humiliated, forced to retreat by a species they considered inferior. What had once been thought of as an accident, or perhaps the result of sheer luck, now seemed like something else entirely. The human delegation wasn't just surviving, they were actively outsmarting and overpowering species with millennia of experience. The galaxy's great powers began to take notice and to fear. At first, the Aurelian Guardians dismissed the human victory as nothing more than an anomaly. Their genetically enhanced warriors, the pinnacle of biological and technological engineering, had never met a species that could challenge them, let alone defeat them. But as intelligence reports from across the galaxy poured in, it became clear humanity wasn't just an unexpected thorn in the side of the galaxy's peace. It was a new, uncharted variable, a wild card that could upend the balance of power. The Aurelian High Command decided it was time to test humanity in a way that couldn't be dismissed. They assembled an elite task force of their finest warriors, superior in strength and speed, to strike at Earth itself, expecting a swift and decisive victory. The humans, after all, were still considered a primitive species, technologically behind the major galactic powers. Their strongest fleet was little more than a handful of ships. How could they possibly withstand the might of the Aurelian military? The attack came without warning. A fleet of massive Aurelian warships appeared at the edge of Earth's solar system, their engines glowing bright against the inky blackness of space. The United Earth Alliance scrambled its defenses, but it was clear that Earth's military wasn't prepared for an assault of this magnitude. The Aurelian ships moved with precision, laying waste to the first line of human defenses with their devastating particle beams. However, the Aurelian forces underestimated humanity's most dangerous weapon, its adaptability. Rather than falling back in panic, Earth's commanders, led by Commander Eric Lawson, rallied their forces. Lawson, anticipating the Aurelians' superior firepower, ordered a counterattack that made use of Earth's innovative tactics, something the Aurelian commanders had never expected. Instead of fighting in a conventional battle, the humans used the terrain of space itself against the invaders. Human warships, armed with crude but effective antimatter warheads, launched a series of surprise ambushes, drawing the Aurelian fleet into a trap. The humans exploited the massive gravitational anomalies near Earth's moon, using the moon's natural electromagnetic fields to interfere with the Aurelian targeting systems. It wasn't a perfect solution, but it bought enough time for Earth's defense fleet to regroup and retaliate with an overwhelming swarm of fighter crafts, forcing the Aurelian fleet to scatter in disarray. When the dust settled, it was the humans who stood victorious. Again, the Aurelian task force, once confident in their overwhelming superiority, limped back to their homeworld, bruised and battered. The message was clear. Humanity was not only able to survive, they had the ingenuity to turn the tide of battle, even against the most advanced military force the galaxy had ever known. Now the galaxy's great powers were not just afraid of humanity, they were terrified. And they were beginning to realize something that no one had anticipated. Humanity was no longer just a species to be watched. They were a force to be reckoned with. After the humiliating defeat of the Aurelian Guardians at Earth's doorstep, the galaxy's ancient powers convened in secret. The Council, a covert assembly of the galaxy's most influential factions, was rattled. The Nero, wounded in their defeat at Myrthasix, now openly pushed for a coordinated effort to crush humanity before the problem became even more unmanageable. The Venks, ever the masterminds of subtlety, saw an opportunity. Rather than engage humanity with brute force, they would use their most effective weapon, psychological manipulation. The Venks were known across the galaxy for their ability to infiltrate, deceive, and control. Their hive mind allowed them to form intricate webs of influence, weaving their manipulations into the fabric of entire civilizations. When they set their sights on humanity, they did so with the same quiet precision. Humanity's greatest strength, its fierce independence and suspicion of outsiders, was also its greatest vulnerability. The Venks would exploit that. They began with a covert infiltration of human communications networks, using subterfuge to seed distrust and paranoia. They manipulated media outlets, planting fake stories of betrayal within human colonies, playing on old Earth divisions, and fueling political instability. Soon, conspiracy theories and disinformation spread like wildfire through the human population. Military leaders began to turn on each other, and political rivals saw this as an opportunity to gain power. The Venks had sown chaos, hoping that humanity would collapse under the weight of its own internal strife. But what the Venks didn't account for was humanity's remarkable ability to unite in the face of existential threats. At first, the discord took hold. Humanity teetered on the brink of civil war. But when the first major attack came, an assault on the outer colony of Omega-12 by a Venks sleeper cell, humans snapped into action. It was a massacre, but the Venks miscalculated. The moment the humans realized they were under attack, their survival instincts kicked in. The Venks had expected a fractured and panicked response, but instead, the humans closed ranks. The military scrambled to deploy forces, but what set them apart was their refusal to buckle under pressure. The Nera had underestimated humanity's ability to fight back in the open, but the Venks had underestimated humanity's resilience in the shadows. What started as a chaotic internal conflict turned into a unified effort to root out the Venks' influence. Commander Lawson, now a leader on the front lines of humanity's war, coordinated a counterattack that would strike at the very heart of the Venks' covert operations. Armed with intelligence culled from the Venks' own infiltrators, humanity developed a counterintelligence network stronger than any the galaxy had seen. Infiltrators were hunted down one by one, and Venks sympathizers within the human ranks were exposed. The final blow came when Lawson's team, with the help of captured Venks operatives, uncovered a secret Venks communications hub on a distant asteroid. With a brutal strike, they wiped out the hub and severed the Venks' ability to manipulate humanity. The disinformation campaign collapsed in an instant. The Venks, unable to recover from the loss of their psychological warfare capabilities, were forced to retreat, defeated not by brute force, but by the one thing they had failed to predict, the strength of humanity's unity when pushed to the brink. The message was now unmistakable. Humanity wasn't just surviving anymore. They were becoming a galaxy-wide force, and nothing, neither manipulation nor subterfuge, could break them. The victory over the Vanks had given humanity a new kind of confidence, but it also brought with it a harsh reality. Their enemies were learning. The galaxy's powers, both ancient and new, had been shaken by humanity's resilience, and they were no longer content to play defensive games. The Aurelian Guardians, embarrassed and enraged by their failed invasion of Earth, now turned their attention to a far more dangerous objective, one that would crush humanity before they could rise further. The Aurelian High Command, unwilling to risk another humiliating defeat, prepared for an all-out assault on humanity's homeworld. A massive fleet, the largest the galaxy had ever seen, was assembled in secret. It included not only the Aurelian warships that had previously been routed, but also newly engineered, advanced war machines, and elite strike teams. This time, the Guardians would not underestimate humanity. The strategy was simple: overwhelm Earth's defenses with sheer force, obliterate its leadership, and bring the human colonies to their knees. The United Earth Alliance, aware of the growing threat, but still reeling from their victories, had little time to prepare for such an overwhelming assault. Their fleet was still relatively small, stretched thin across various sectors of human space. They had made progress in reverse engineering alien technologies, but they were still far from matching the sheer firepower of the Aurelian war machines. It was then that Commander Eric Lawson, ever the strategist, formulated an audacious plan, one that would turn the very nature of the war on its head. He understood that humanity could not face the Aurelian fleet head-on. The key to victory lay not in defeating the Aurelian forces in open space, but in undermining their command structure and destabilizing their logistical operations. Lawson called it the Night Strike Offensive. Using stealth, subterfuge, and overwhelming surprise, the human fleet, augmented by specially trained special forces, would infiltrate deep behind Aurelian lines and take out their most critical command centers. Instead of engaging the massive fleet directly, humanity would cut off its leadership and cripple its ability to coordinate. Lawson's plan would leave the Guardians' strike forces fragmented, confused, and vulnerable. The first phase of the operation was executed with flawless precision. A small contingent of human stealth cruisers slipped past Aurelian patrols and made their way to the heart of the Aurelian fleet, where their flagship, the Ardent Blade, was stationed. Using a combination of EMP pulses and hacked Aurelian encryption, they breached the flagship's defenses and struck at the command center. Simultaneously, ground teams infiltrated key military installations on Aurelian-controlled worlds, taking out critical communication hubs and sabotaging weapons factories. The Aurelian fleet was thrown into disarray. As news of the attacks spread, confusion reigned. The Guardians, once masters of military coordination, were left scrambling to maintain their grip on their forces. And then, the second phase of the Night Strike Offensive began. Human warships, now armed with advanced Vanks counterintelligence technology, struck in quick succession, exploiting the fractured Aurelian command. In a series of rapid, devastating skirmishes, the human fleet eliminated the scattered remnants of the Aurelian fleet. The once proud Guardians had lost their cohesion and were forced into retreat, their forces splintered and scattered across the galaxy. By the time the Aurelian High Command realized what had happened, it was too late. The human forces, against all odds, had struck decisively, turning the tide of the war in their favor. The Aurelian Guardians, the galaxy's most powerful military force, had been defeated, not by brute strength, but by human ingenuity, speed, and relentless determination. Humanity's rise was now undeniable. The message was sent. Earth was no longer just a fledgling power. It was a force that could shatter the very foundations of the galaxy's long-held order. Humanity's stunning victory over the Aurelian Guardians reverberated through the galaxy, but it was more than just a military triumph. It was a catalyst for a transformation. No longer would humans be content to play the role of the underdog. They had tasted the power of their own potential, and they were determined to build on it. As the remnants of the Aurelian fleet retreated to lick their wounds, humanity began its next phase of evolution, one that would see them rise from the ashes of war as the galaxy's most formidable force. The United Earth Alliance, realizing the enormous opportunity that lay before them, initiated a new project, the Nexus Initiative. The goal was to accelerate humanity's technological development, incorporating everything they had learned from their victories over the Aurelian and Vinx fleets. Scientists, engineers, and military leaders from across Earth's colonies were put to work, focused on creating cutting-edge weapons, advanced defensive systems, and revolutionary combat tactics. The first major breakthrough came with the development of the Sirius Protocol, a combat system designed to combine human ingenuity with the alien technologies humanity had reverse-engineered. The system was a fusion of biological enhancement and artificial intelligence that allowed human soldiers to interface directly with their combat gear and ships, increasing their reaction times, situational awareness, and combat efficiency. It was a game-changer. But the true power of the Sirius Protocol lay not in its technology alone, but in the human mind behind it. The system was designed to amplify the uniquely human qualities of adaptability, creativity, and resourcefulness, traits that no other species in the galaxy could match. Humans could learn, adapt, and evolve faster than any of their galactic counterparts. Where the Aurelian Guardians were born warriors with fixed tactics, and the Vinx relied on calculated strategy and manipulation, humans had the ability to think outside the box, to improvise, and to overcome with sheer will. Commander Eric Lawson, now regarded as one of the brightest military minds of his generation, became the public face of humanity's rise. His leadership in the Night Strike offensive had already cemented his place as a legend, but under his guidance, Earth's forces began to evolve at a staggering pace. Human fleets, once outclassed and outgunned, were now fitted with Sirius Protocol technology, allowing them to outmaneuver and overpower their enemies with surgical precision. But the Sirius Protocol wasn't just a military tool. It was a symbol of humanity's newfound confidence, of their ability to break free from the limitations that had once held them back. As the technology spread throughout the human colonies, soldiers, pilots, and tacticians became not just more skilled, but more deadly. Humanity had unlocked a potential no one had ever expected, least of all the galaxy's ancient powers. The question now was no longer whether humanity could survive. It was whether the galaxy could withstand the rise of a new power, one that was fast becoming a force that no other species could hope to challenge. The balance of power was shifting, and humanity was no longer fighting to survive. They were fighting to dominate. As humanity's influence expanded across the galaxy, their rise to prominence came at a cost. The newly formed human fleet, bolstered by the Sirius Protocol and an increasingly formidable military, began to exert its influence on former allies and enemies alike. Colonies that once operated on the fringes of galactic society now found themselves drawn into Earth's orbit, either by force or by political coercion. The galaxy, once divided among ancient powers, now faced the reality of a unified aggressive human race that no longer shied away from asserting its authority. But with power came a deep internal struggle. The United Earth Alliance, though united in purpose, was divided in its methods. Some factions, particularly those in Earth's military leadership, argued for a more assertive, even imperialistic approach, advocating for the annexation of strategic systems and a military-first stance. Others, including political leaders and civilian representatives, called for a more cautious path, one of diplomacy, trade, and peaceful expansion, hoping to avoid the kind of brutal military overreach that had led to the downfall of previous galactic powers. Commander Eric Lawson, still revered for his battlefield successes, found himself at the center of this debate. His warfighting instincts and strategic genius made him an invaluable asset to the military, but his growing unease with humanity's unchecked expansion began to raise concerns. He saw the writing on the wall. A galaxy already on edge could not be tamed by force alone. If humanity continued down this path, it risked becoming just another conqueror in a long line of failed empires. The tipping point came when humanity encountered the Lurath, the enigmatic race of peaceful nomads who had wandered the outer edges of the galaxy for centuries. The Lurath were unlike any other species humanity had encountered. They had no centralized government, no standing armies, and no interest in galactic politics. Instead, they traveled in vast flotillas, trading and communicating through intricate, non-violent rituals. The Lurath had always kept to themselves, and they had no interest in aligning with humanity or anyone else. The human response, led by a faction of the UEA's military, was swift and brutal. Viewing the Lurath as an obstacle to human dominance, a fleet of warships was dispatched to forcibly protect the nomads from threats that had never even materialized. The Lurath, in their peaceful isolation, could not and would not defend themselves, and the intervention quickly escalated into a violent confrontation. Thousands of Lurath vessels were destroyed in the fighting, and entire flotillas were lost. Lawson, who had been out of the loop during the early stages of the operation, was horrified when he received the reports. This wasn't just a military campaign, it was an unprovoked massacre. The human military, now emboldened by their earlier successes, had crossed a line. Lawson knew that this wasn't just a betrayal of the Lurath, it was a betrayal of humanity's own ideals. In the days that followed, Lawson's voice became a rallying cry for those who still believed that humanity's power should be tempered by restraint. He called for an immediate ceasefire and an investigation into the massacre. The political fallout was immense, and divisions within the UEA deepened. The question of whether humanity could wield its newfound power responsibly, or whether it was doomed to repeat the mistakes of every empire, before it was now a matter of existential importance. Humanity had the power to shape the galaxy, but the true test had just begun. Could they control their ambition, or would they become the very thing they had fought against? The massacre of the Lurath flotillas became the defining moment of humanity's rise, and it was a turning point that would either solidify their dominance or mark their downfall. The fallout from the attack echoed across the galaxy. The other galactic powers, already watching humanity with suspicion, now saw them as a looming threat to peace and stability. The UEA, once united in their ambition to expand, was now fracturing from within. The military hardliners, who believed humanity's strength should be asserted at all costs, clashed with those who felt humanity's future lay in diplomacy and moral authority. Earth's allies, once eager to join forces with the rising human empire, now hesitated, questioning whether humanity could be trusted. The shockwaves of the Lurath massacre reached even further, igniting a series of protests. both on Earth and its colonies. Thousands of citizens demanded accountability from the UEA leadership. The human military, once celebrated as the key to humanity's survival and rise, found itself under intense scrutiny. The UEA's civilian government was forced to act. In response to the crisis, President Julia Westbrook, an advocate of diplomacy and cautious expansion, called for a historic council of all human factions, both military and civilian. The council was convened not just to discuss the Lurath tragedy, but to redefine humanity's role in the galaxy. Westbrook's administration proposed a new vision for the future, one of cooperation with other species, mutual respect, and a commitment to galactic peace. It was a bold proposal, one that sought to shift humanity from a militaristic empire to a more integrated, responsible galactic power. But not everyone agreed. Military leaders, particularly General Marcus Hale, one of humanity's most decorated heroes, rejected the idea of peace through diplomacy. Hale and his faction viewed the Lurath incident as an unfortunate but necessary act, a warning to the galaxy that humanity would not tolerate any threat to its expansion. To them, the galaxy was a jungle, and humanity was destined to be its apex predator. The debate came to a head when Lawson, who had watched his people's moral compass falter, delivered a speech that would change everything. Standing before the council, he reminded humanity that their greatest strength was not their weapons or their ability to conquer, but their capacity for change. "We have become something different," Lawson said. "We are not a race of conquerors. We are a species that has learned to adapt, to survive. We must show the galaxy that we can lead with integrity, not with fear." The council was divided, but Lawson's words resonated. In the end, a compromise was reached. Humanity would still maintain a strong military presence, but the focus would now be on forging alliances, engaging in peaceful diplomacy, and ensuring the rights and autonomy of other species. Earth would be the first to extend an olive branch, offering reparations to the Lurath survivors as a gesture of goodwill and accountability. The decision wasn't easy. There were many who believed humanity had already gone too far to turn back. The military factions were discontent, and the scars of the Lurath massacre remained fresh. But the galaxy watched, and for the first time, humanity began to show that they were capable of more than just violence. They could be a force for peace, or at least they could try. The galaxy's future was now uncertain. Would humanity rise as the great unifiers of the galaxy, leading the way toward a new era of peace and cooperation? Or would they become the empire of old, powerful, but ultimately broken by their own unchecked ambition? The answer, as humanity knew, was still to be written.